So there's this very famous story about an experiment that a scientist did with fleas in a jar. And the story goes that he took fleas that are naturally able to jump 18 inches and he put them in a jar that was 12 inches high. Immediately the fleas would jump out of the jar. What he did next is he put a lid on the jar so that as the fleas would jump, they begin to hit their head. And the more they hit their head, the lower they jump. Until over time, they would jump just high enough to not hit their head. And then the scientists removed the lid, and as the story goes, the fleas were no longer able to jump out of the jar because they had been conditioned by the memory of their failures of the past. Now, is that an incredible lesson for all of us? Because we have to ask ourselves, is there a difference between who you dreamed you would become and what you've accepted as reality? You see, all of us have the ability and the potential to do incredible things, but many of us have allowed our failures of the past, and more importantly, our memory of those failures, to limit who we are today. And we have to understand, for us to become who we're built and designed to be, it can't be limited by the past. There's way too much riding on it. You see, for most, when they hear the story, that's where the story ends. But as it was relayed to me, there's a lot more to the story. Because as the story continues, over time, as those fleas began to reproduce and have little baby fleas, those little baby fleas, born with the ability to jump 18 inches, would only jump just under 11 inches, just below what they saw their parents do. And see, the question is what are you handing down? Are you handing down limitations because of your own failures and your own past? Or are you handing down limitless potential? You see, this is the one thing that most of us have to work out. We can talk about all the hows in the world, but the minute we begin to implement things, our memories limit what we can do. Now, there is a happy ending to this story, because here's what happened. The scientists then took fleas that had never been conditioned in a jar and put them in the jar with those conditioned fleas. And guess what happened? Those fleas immediately jumped out. And then, the fleas who had been jumping only 12 inches or a little under, and their little offspring, when they saw those fleas who could jump out, they started jumping out as well. And you see, surrounding yourself with people who are a positive influence and are a help instead of a confirmation of your limitations is often the key to beginning to overcome our fear of our failures of the past. There's a lot to this, and there's a lot more we can learn. But think about it. Who are you around? And more importantly, what are you passing down? Aloha.